In preparation for the next tutorial, we will be adding enemies, but before we add the enemies, we will be adding a health component to our champion, so we can get damage and we can cause damage to other champions. So let's begin by going to blueprints. We will create a new folder. I will call it actor components. Let's double click it and let's create a new blueprint class. It will be an actor component. Let's call this AC health points. Let's double click it to open it. And let's begin by creating some important variables for this component. So first will be called max HP. The second will be called current HP. The third, magic damage resistance. Physical damage resistance. HP regeneration. HP regeneration rate. And that's about it. So on begin play, we want to grab our current HP and we want to set it to our max HP. So let's set it right here on begin play. And let's create a new function. This new function is going to be called take damage. So take damage needs two inputs. The first one is going to be called damage amount, and it's going to be a float. And the second one is going to be called damage type, and it's going to be of class damage type. So let's go ahead and grab a pin from our damage amount, and we will subtract it from the current HP. Get current HP and subtract it, and we will check if it is less or equals than 0. So let's branch here. And if it is true, we want to destroy our actor. If it doesn't show up, uncheck the context sensitive, so destroy actor. Recheck it again. And for the target, we want our get owner. Let's put owner here. And that's it for the true. And now for false, let's set our current HP to the value that we just subtracted. So like this, and that's it. Or actually, let's put this pin in the branch. And that's it for now for this function. Now let's add a regeneration function. So let's say regeneration, or let's call it regenerate HP, which is better. So while we are regenerating HP, we are going to take our current health, and we are going to take our HP regeneration amount, and we are going to add them. So add, and we are going to check if it is equals or greater or equals than max HP. Let's branch. So if it is not greater or equals than max HP, we're going to get our current we're going to set our current HP to this value, false. And if it is true, we're going to set our current HP to the max HP. Now we actually need to call this regenerate function. First of all, let's pin the regenerate HP function to the branch, and we want to call this function from from the event graph. And to do that, we need to call it periodically, because regeneration takes time and it does not take effect immediately. So in order to do that, we are going to create a timer. So let's grab a pin from here, and let's say set timer by function name. Let's supply it with the function that we just created, regenerate HP. This needs to be the same name of the function that we just created here. And we are going to take our regeneration rate, and we are going to supply it to time, and we are going to loop our function or our timer. Now let's grab our return value here, and let's say promote to variable. Let's call it regeneration handler, or time handler. Actually timer, not time. And that should be about it. So let's go back to our regenerate function. So if we are fully healed, we need to pause our regeneration. So let's say here get regeneration timer handler, and let's say pause timer by handle. So we need to start this timer when we take damage. So if we take damage and we don't die, we are going to start regenerating. So let's grab our regeneration handler again, and let's say unpause this time. Another thing is we're going to apply a resistance before we take the damage that we've done. So to do that, we are going to define 3 types of resistance, or 3 types of damages, and we are going to act accordingly to each damage type. So let's go back to the actor components here. We're going to create, we're going to go to blueprint, and we're going to create an enumeration, and we are going to call this enumeration damage type. In this damage type, we're going to create 3 new enumerations. First one is going to be called true, So for true damage, the second one is going to be called physical for physical damage, and the final one is going to be called magic for magic damage. Let's save our enumeration and let's close it. Now we need to make use of this damage type that is provided by Unreal Engine by default. To do that, we're going to go back here and we're going to create a new blueprint class, and it will inherit from damage type right here. Let's call this applied damage type. Let's open it up and we're going to create a new variable here. Let's call this damage type, or actually damage type, because we're going to make use of the enumeration that we just created. So its type is going to be an damage type. And let's create just one function, call it get damage, get damage type. This function is going to return damage type of type damage type. And we are going to get the enumeration that we created in the variables, and we will supply it to the return. Don't forget to compile. Now let's go back to our editor and we are going to left click this and we're going to create a child blueprint from the applied damage class that we just created. So we're going to replace child with the type of damage that we will be applying. So first one, let's call it magic for magic damage. Let's double click it and we are only going to replace this. So the damage type is going to correspond to the damage type that we named. Again, create child. Let's call this physical. Replace this here. And another time true. And I think it's by default true. So that's it for these ones. Close them down. Let's close the applied damage type too. We don't need it anymore. Now that we created our damage types, we need to create a function that makes use of them. So let's create a new function, call it apply resistance. And it's going to need two inputs. The first one is going to be called damage amount, and the second one is going to be called damage type. It's going to be of type damage type, the standard one, and we are also going to need an output. The output is going to be the calculated damage that we get at the end. So let's call it return damage of type float also. As for the damage type, we're going to cast to applied damage type, and we are going to get the damage type from it, and we are going to switch on the value of a damage type. So now we have 3 pins that we get here. We are going to act accordingly to each one. So let's create a local variable called call it calculated damage, let's get, and let's set it here. Now if we are applying true damage, it means that we will not be applying any resistances. So let's set calculated damage from there. Let's set the calculated damage to the damage amount, and we will exit to the return node. So if it is a physical damage, we are going to do the following. So we are going to take the damage amount, we are going to divide it by 100, and we are going to multiply it by the resistance, the physical damage resistance. So say multiply and all of this will be subtracted from the initial damage. So subtract like this, and let's set calculated damage here. Let's put it here and just like this. So we're calculating the damage after the physical resistance, and we will be setting it to the calculated damage, and we will be returning. Same thing for the magical damage. We're going to grab this, copy and paste. We're going to hook the damage amount here and the damage amount here. And instead of physical damage resistance, we are going to get our magic damage resistance. Hook it up here, set it on the damage switch, on the magic damage switch, and return. So I think this is it for this function. Let's go back to take damage, and we will make use of this function. So we're going to, from the take damage function, we're going to apply resistance immediately. So let's apply it, and we're going to put the damage amount here and the damage type here. And instead of using the damage amount directly, we're going to use the returned damage. Now that we have set up our health points component, we are going to use it by applying it to our character, and we are going to create an environment where we can test our damage. So let's compile and save this. Let's exit and go back to blueprints, go to the champion, and we are going to for our champion components, we are going to add AC health points. Leave it like that. Let's modify the default variables. So max HP, let's say 1000. Current HP, I'm going to leave it at 0. Let's say we are going to have a 20% magic resistance, and we are going to say 15% damage, physical damage resistance. For our regeneration, we will be regenerating every second, and we will be regenerating 5 health every second. Let's compile and save. Now let's create an object that will apply damage on our champion, so we can test out the health component that we just created. So let's go back to the editor. Let's create a new blueprint class actor, and let's call it damage dealer actor. and let's call it damage dealer. So this damage dealer is going to have a visual representation. Let's create a cube. Let's scale it down like this, like a platform. And let's give it a box collision. This box collision is going to have a box extent of 60, 60, 60. And let's take this box that we created or cube that we created and put it all the way down. Now let's go to event graph. Let's delete both of these. And on begin play, I want to set timer by event, and I want to create a new event. So add custom event. It's going to be called cause damage, and let's hook this red button to the event. Now let's create a new variable, call it champion. It's going to be of type BP champion. And let's get it. Let's check if it is valid. Is valid. With a branch. Is valid. With a question mark on it. And let's take the execution pin. And if it is valid, we're going to apply damage to our champion. This damage is going to be of a value of 100, and let's leave it at that for now. We're going to modify the type class later, but for now let's leave it like that. On set timer, let's promote this to a variable. Call it damage timer. And let's pause immediately. Pause the timer on creation. Now let's click on our box here and let's find the event on component begin overlap, and let's take our other actor and let's cast it to BP champion. And let's set the champion variable to this casted value. Now let's unpause the timer. So let's get the damage timer and unpause timer by handle. Set the execution pin there, and that's it for this for the component begin overlap. Let's go back to the box and let's get on component end overlap. Now let's do the same thing. So let's copy most of this, take it, other actor set here. Actually, we don't want to set the champion, we just want to pause the timer. So let's get our damage timer and let's pause timer by handle. Now that is it for this component. Let's compile and save, and let's duplicate this damage dealer. So I'm going to copy and paste. Actually, I'm going to duplicate here, and let's set damage dealer underscore true. Now when we go to our blueprint, let's set the damage type class to true, and let's change the material for the box or for the cube to something that we can distinguish from the others. So let's set it to this yellow material, for example. Let's look for another one. Mossy ground. So this mossy ground is going to be dealing 2 damage. Let's save. And let's do the same thing again. So let's duplicate this. Now it's going to be physical. And let's take the cube and let's give it another material. Let's say this hex tech or tech hex type. And again, one final time. This time is going to be magic damage. Set the damage type to magic, and let's give it another material. For example, give it this wood oak. Now, one final thing before we can deal damage to our champion is we need to respond to that damage in our BP champion blueprint. We are going to look for the event any damage, and we are going to get our AC health points. We are going to look for the function take damage that we created earlier, and we are going to pass the execution pin. We are going to pass the damage amount and the damage type. Just one final thing is we want to print the damage that we take to the screen, because we can't see the health changing otherwise. So let's look for print string taking damage, or let's just pass the damage short, and let's save it and see if it works. So let's grab these here. So before we test anything out, I forgot to set the timer for the time by event in our damage dealers. So we're going to go one by one and modify these values. We're going to set the timer to 1, and we're going to set it to looping. Again, for the damage dealer physical, we're going to set the value to 1, and we're going to set it to looping again. And for the magic, 1 and the looping. Compile and save. Now let's try it out. Let's go to one of the pads, and for some reason our champion dies immediately, and I think I know why. So I think we have a mistake in the health points component here. Yep. So in the subtraction here, we need to reverse the order of these values. So the order matters a lot, because we will be subtracting the damage from the current HP. Let's compile and try again. Now let's step on one of these platforms, and we are taking the damage. Now we are not seeing the damage that is applied after resistance. So let's print the current health of the player. So let's go to the health component or the health points component. Let's go to event graph. Let's print string. Let's get the current HP and let's set it in string. Compile and save. Let's test it out again. So now we have 1000 HP. If we step on this, we take 100 damage, but we are also healing 5 each second. So if we step here, we take the damage that is applied after resistance, and if we step here, same thing. Now if we step on the damage for too long, our champion is going to die. Now we will actually have an error if we keep the code like this, because in our level blueprint we are using champion here and we are not checking if it is valid or not. So in champion we are going to check if it is valid. I'm going to take the execution node here and put it here, just like this. Same thing with where is it? With this code. So we need to check is valid. We need to pass this here and here. Now let's test it out. Of course, compile and save, don't forget. And we are taking 102 damage each second. One final thing is we're going to add a simple health bar to our champion so we can visualize our health. So let's go to blueprints, let's create a new folder, call it widgets. And we are going to go to user interface, widget blueprint, and let's create a user widget. Let's call it wb underscore character widget. Let's double click this, let's open it, and let's add two things to our widget. First of all, we're going to add a canvas. So canvas panel, we're going to drag it and drop it here, and we are going to add a health, or we're going to add, sorry, progress bar. And we are going to rename it to health bar. Let's check is variable, and now let's take our health bar. Let's make sure to anchor it correctly. So let's anchor it at the center and put the position of X and Y at 0. We're also putting the alignment to 0.5 in both values. And let's make it slightly larger, like this. Again, put the position at 0, 0. Let's put the percent at 1. And I want to change the color to something like a bit of a darker green. Hit OK, save. And that's it. Now let's go to our PP champion. Let's add a widget. Let's call it character widget, and let's put, first of all, we're going to change the space from world space to screen space, and we are going to change the widget class to WB character widget, the one that we just created. Now let's take it up a little bit so it hangs on the head of our champion. Let's save it, and let's go to the event graph. So before we do anything in our champion blueprint, we need to go to AC health points, and we need to add 2 new event dispatchers. So the first one is going to be called on damage taken, and second one is going to be called on health regenerated. Now on take damage, in the function of on take damage, we are going to grab on damage taken event dispatcher, and we are going to call it like this, and that's about it. Now let's go to regenerate HP and do the same thing. We're going to take on health regenerated, and let's call it. Now let's go back to our BP champion. Let's delete this, and we are going to go to AC health points. We're going to, first of all, I forgot to compile here, so compile, so the functions would show up here, or the events that we just created would show up here. So on damage taken and on health regenerated, let's put them side by side here. Now let's take our character widget, let's get widget, and let's cast to WB character widget, just like this. Now let's get the health bar, and let's get or set percent, in this case set percent. The percent value is going to be straightforward. We're going to get our AC health points, we're going to get max health, and we are going to get current health. We're going to divide them, so divide. The order is important, of course. We're going to divide the current health by the max health, and we're going to put it in percent. Now let's hook these 2 pins here. Let's actually distance these nodes from each other, so it is easier to understand, and that's about it. Let's see if we compiled everything, and let's head back to the game and start. So now we have a health bar. If we step on a panel, we're going to take damage, and as you can see, we are taking damage, and now we are regenerating little by little. If we go back here, we will be taking damage again. And if we go back here, we'll be taking damage again. So that's it for this video. I will see you on the next one, where we'll be adding enemies that will inflict damage upon us, and we will be able to inflict damage upon them. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next one.